5-6 months, and then I was able to get a job in India. That was a starting job, and that is how I started my career. And there was no clue about what MM is, what is materials management and warehouse management. But once after doing the training, like I got used to it, and then slowly I grabbed. And for last 18 years, I've been working in SAP in the same module, MMWM, but I have grown into areas of like sales and distribution and logistics side. But MM is the base module where I started my career.
What is MM actually? SAP?
MM is materials management, and it is more about, it talks about procurement, like how you do your procurement, how do you do your inventory management. So it is a daily process what you do in your daily life. It is nothing different, like how you procure the material, how do you manage your inventory. Those are like standard things. Those are not very complicated, but only thing is you have to work on that one. Means it is not like, even if you don't have an IT background, but the thing is like with the experience, like me, with having 18 years of experience, I'll help you out in understanding what SAP is, with giving live examples of like what they do, and that will help you in understanding like what that kind of SAP means. HR also is the same thing. HR is means or there is nothing different, but means HR is basically, if you have a work experience in HR, then definitely it helps you a lot. But that is all like basically you have to be on a functional side. There is no programming involved here. It is all the business processes what you have to understand, and then that you have to implement in SAP. Like that is what all about SAP is. And major thing is how well you can communicate. That is more important because that is where like it comes in. I mean, how you, because most of the time you'll be talking to the business people here, and business people, like they transfer the requirement, and that transfer means requirements you will have to implement in here, which is like, which I'll tell you how to implement all those processes, like how those processes are implemented. So those kind of things, like you have to go through it, and that is how you understand.
So again, my question is, you know, if I told you, right, I have no background in IT or even human resources, but I was interested in doing for SAP in HR. So then is it possible or no?
So yeah, I mean, that's what I told you. Like, when I started my career, I was a construction engineer, and I did not had any clue about materials management, and I did not had any clue about SAP. I did not know how to start the computer also, I was telling you, right?
Right.
But, yeah, and I mean, basically you have to work a little hard for 5-6 months, and then you're done. Like, then you start your career.
Okay, so now today the training that you're going to give us, is it also going to give us the basic idea of what SAP is?
Yes, I'll tell you like what SAP is, like what all modules are connected to that. Basically there are like other modules which you can start. I mean, basically what I'll talk about is what SAP is, what do you mean by SAP, what do you do in SAP, and then what are topics I'll be covering in SAP MMWM.
Could you hold on for a second? I'm trying to do this by my phone, because in between your voice gets cut, so like some of the conversation I'm not able to hear. So if you don't mind, I'll just quickly go and switch it on my phone. So
okay, no problem, and then I can talk to Ruth in the meanwhile.
Yeah, and who else is there right now with us?
Ruth Freeman.
I can't even hear you, no.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, right now I can, yeah.
Yes, so basically there is this Ruth Freeman. She's there. I think she's on mute now. So Ruth, can you unmute yourself and speak about yourself?
We're done.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, is it Ruth?
No, no, this is Yogita.
Yogita, okay. She was there. I don't know where she went. She was the first one to talk. And hello. Hello. Hello.
Tap and pin. Asking for the pin.
Hi, this is Yogita again. I'm trying to connect you through the phone. So when I try to do it through the phone, it keeps asking me about PIN.
Okay. So yeah, just give 9 asterisk.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
one
second.
second. I think I got disconnected.
Okay.
Hello. Is it Ruth?
Hello.
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 Hello, yeah.
Yeah, this is Yogita.
Okay.
If you want to, you can put it on mute. Just leave.
Okay. Hello. So Yogita, I can hear you, but only thing is, I think Ruth, I am still not able to hear. So let me
Okay.
do a chat with her.
मला माझाच आवाज का ऐकू येतो?
It's okay.
तो एकदम डिस्टर्बिंग होतं असं.
आता ना तुला don't talk मग. ऐक त्याचं फक्त.
मी जेव्हा त्याच्याशी बोलते ना त्या फोन
Echo येतो. मला कळलं.
Yogita, can you be on mute?
Yeah. 1 second.
Speaker
म्यूट केलं ना.
अनम्यूट येतं का तुला? अनम्यूट येतं का करायला? म्यूट केलेलं आहे ना, मग कोणी बोलू नाही शकत त्या साईडला.
Hello. Hi Ruth, I think you went on mute and we cannot hear you anything. So can you speak like something like, because I'm not very sure whether you are online or not.
Okay, I'm here.
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. The sound is not very clear, but yeah. So can you speak about yourself, or like means I just want to understand like what your background is?
Okay, I have a degree in psychology back from Ghana, and then I also graduated last year with economics from Radcliffe University. So I was actually in a financial analyst position, and then a friend recommended SAP equal to me. So I read about it, and I think it'd be a good fit for what I was looking for in the financial reporting and analysis sector.
Actually, I'm not hearing you properly. I think there is some disturbances there. So you are from New Jersey or you are from somewhere else?
Yes, I'm in New Jersey. I'm in North Brunswick, so I'm just like close to you.
Oh, North Brunswick. Okay. I think, yeah. So I live in South Brunswick.
Okay.
Okay, so to now to start with, like I'm an SAP MMWM consultant. I started my career as an MM consultant, and I have 18 years of experience in SAP. And in all, totally, I have around 25 years of experience with functional as well as SAP experience. I have been teaching SAP for last 2-3 years, and I have taken a lot of batches in the MMWM area. So SAP is definitely good. Even if you don't have a background in IT, that doesn't matter, because more thing is basically how you understand the business, because business that is what you have to talk to the people. Most of the time you have to talk to the business people, and then you have to map the requirements into SAP, what the requirement for the business is. So we'll go through that, and basically what you have to do is you'll have to practice. Once you do practice, it is not that difficult, because this is like not a programming or anything. It is more of like a pre-configured system which you'll have to work on it. And once you work on it, it takes some time, 2 to 3 months of time to get used to it. Once you get used to it, then it is not that difficult. So to start with, I'll start this, and means my experience have been like I was a senior managing consultant in IBM. I left IBM, and then now I'm working for my own company, and that is what I do. I am now consulting for a company called AstraZeneca. I have been working in the pharmaceutical industry for last 7-8 years. That is what I do, the consulting, and that is what my career is all about. So, welcome to TekTaurus Education. This is an SAP MMWM training session.
Okay.
Okay. Introduction to SAP R3MM. We'll be talking about mostly is SAP MM in this training session. So to start with, what is SAP? SAP is basically a client-server technology. And what you do is an SAP client-server technology. The programming to write, it means if the program has to be written. It has to be written in a program language called ABAP, which we will not talk about basically, because programming, all the functionals what you are doing, like all the transactional data what you are doing, all your master data what you'll be doing, they are all written in background in an ABAP language. So means you don't have to change anything in there, but like there are certain requirements like where you cannot do it with a pre-configured system in SAP. That you have to write programs in SAP, and that programs are written in ABAP language. And to make you clear, you will not be writing as a function. There are two things in SAP. One is functional side and one is technical side. So the things what I'll be talking about is more of the functional side, where you don't need a programming. But what you have to do is you have to coordinate with the programmer. And programmer, what he does is basically for that you have to write a functional spec. Basically, functional specs is nothing, but you're writing the business requirement that this is the requirement. And programmer will write program in ABAP language, and he will develop a program for you. That is what is ABAP language. And your job as a functional consultant is to test. What is client-server technology? Client-server technology is basically you have servers, and in the servers, like you have different clients in there. So SAP is like in 3-tier structure, and in that you have a client-server technology. Means you have servers like development server, quality server, and your production server. All the business is done in the production server. All the testing, that is the unit testing, is done in development server, and your the quality testing is done in your quality server. So that is what servers are there. And then in the servers there are multiple clients. When I show you the real system, I'll show you like what is client and all that kind of stuff. So in a server you can have multiple clients. Like in the development server you can have multiple clients. When we go into SAP, I'll talk about that. So now what area we'll be covering is, the area what we'll be covering is this materials management. This is where you'll be working on. If you see here this materials management, this is what materials management is all about. This is what we'll be talking about. There is an integration of MM to the sales and distribution. Sales and distribution is more towards the sales side. That is like whenever materials management is more about procurement. How do you procure the material? How do you manage the inventory? How do you use that material for sales and distribution? Because sales and distribution, they don't manage the inventory, but what they do is they take the inventory, like when the sales order is there. When a customer sales order is there, the material has to be issued. And how does the material has to be issued is that is what the integration is there between SD and MM. Okay, and then SD is also, I see that Soham is also arrived now. So we'll just wait for Soham. But just to make you understand, like what is materials management has an integration with production planning. What is production planning is? Production planning is the materials which you are producing, all the manufacturing plants. These materials, like all the manufacturing plants are the plants like which are producing the material. How do you receive, once the materials are produced, how do you receive it into SAP? That is where the integration between MM and PP will be there, like so you're receiving against a production order. And like the materials which are issued for as a component, how do you issue the components to the production, like for the plant? So that is where like the integration between MM and PP is there. These are like modules of SAP, like sales and distributions, materials management, PP, production planning. This is quality analysis. This is basically a quality module. So what we will be talking about is this materials management module. Soham, did you join?
Yeah, I just joined. Sorry, I was late.
Okay. Yeah, hi. Soham, this is Sanjay Yadav, and we just started. Just to tell you, like means what we have started is we have just started. This is the first screen we are talking about. What we will be discussing. This is materials management. What we will be talking about. And everybody, if they can be on mute, that would be great, because that way, like, because otherwise I'm hearing little voices like coming from the background. So you will also not understand what I'm saying, and you would means there will be confusion somewhere. So it is better like everybody be on mute except me, because I'll be like talking. And if any questions are there, you can then call in between. So I'll talk to you later, but like because now we are in the middle of the session. So let us first complete the session, and then I can ask you like what your background and that is there.
Okay.
Okay, so this is materials management, and then we were talking about production planning. We will be talking more about materials management in our training session. We have quality, which is like basically how when you receive the material, that is where the integration of QA is there. So this green session is where all the integration will be there between SAP and materials management. Quality is like when you receive the material, you receive it in quality inspection. So how do you do the quality inspection? That will be an integration, but that will only be the integration, but mainly we'll be talking about MM. Plant maintenance. Plant maintenance is basically all the repair materials, which are like how do you repair when you have production planning, and how do you receive those planning materials, plant maintenance material. That is where integration. Then you have HR here. HR is totally different module. This is basically how you run your companies and how you pay your company, pay your employees, how you do your payroll system, and how do you manage all those things. That is what is HR module. Then we have module, these are industry specific modules, like this is project system, and this is oil, which is oil specific, and there are like a lot of pharmaceutical specific and all. So these are specific modules to the specific industry. Then this is a totally separate module, which is a financial module. These are done by the financial people who have a background of finance. So this is like FI, finance, this is costing, and this is asset module. So this is done like basically, but you would see there is an integration when we do materials management with them. So there would be some integration done with them. But these are like done by the finance people. So these are the basic core modules of SAP. But what we will be talking about is more about this materials management. That is where we will have materials management and warehouse management. This is what we will be talking about. Okay. So what are the components of materials management? We have purchasing, we have inventory management, we have materials management, material master, we have logistics invoice verification, how we will do the valuation, service master, we have product catalog, which is SRM, then service entry sheets, like if anything, like if there is service purchase order created, how do you create a service and which thing. And foreign trade customs, basically when you receive the material, when you import a material, or how you export a material. That is what is there in this foreign trade customs. This is what is materials management. They have, but what we will be talking about more about this is purchasing, inventory management, logistics invoice verification, what is valuation, MRP, physical inventory, and the master data. This is what we'll be talking about, because these all like service and product catalogs are used in SRM. That is like in internet, like indirect materials, which are like your all the materials where you don't have a material master. That is where like these product catalogs are used. Okay. Once this is done, then we talk about the organizational data. SAP is totally about organizational data and master data. So organizational data are the hierarchies of which is in like an enterprise structures on that are based on like that is the one which is very important. Like this is what organizational structure in SAP as far as MM is concerned. There are other organizational structures like you have sales organization, sales area, and there are different organizational structures as far as SD is concerned or as far as finance is concerned. But for us, like as far as MM is concerned, these are the four or five organizational structure which we'll be talking about multiple times when we do the training. Like it starts with the client. Client is the shop level. Basically, client is like you can talk about like Apple as one of the clients. Okay, and then company code is the place where you maintain your balance sheet, where your profit and loss statements are done. So if you take like every country will have its own company code. And second, every line of business will have its own company code, because that is where that is how you decide. The company code is decided by the financial people. Financial people, they decide like what company code it will be, because that is based on like what is your financial profit and loss statement where you are making. Based on that, the company code is decided. Plant is the place where you basically say you can manufacture the material, you can do your sales there, you can basically your office can be your plant. So a plant is the place like where it can be a manufacturing plant, it can be a distribution center, your like if you are working in a trading industry, then all those retail stores, that can be your plant. Like your Stop and Shop can be a plant, your Walmart can be a plant. Okay. Because that is what basically every location can be one plant. And the storage location is the place where you store the material. Storing is basically like if you might have seen when you go to Walmart, when you go to Stop and Shop, you see those aisles down there. So behind that there is a storage, what they store everything. So storage location is the place like where like you store the material. So means basically if you see the aisle and there is behind that Walmart, there is a big hall in there. That is what is called a storage location where you are storing the material. Then you have purchasing organization, and then you have purchasing group. Purchasing organization is the purchasing. So Ruth, you had written yes. That if you wanted to ask some questions. Okay, thank you. So purchasing organization is the organization which is responsible for procuring the material. Okay, that means they are the group of organization who will be responsible for procuring the material. You can have for every multiple countries, you can have one purchasing organization. Purchasing group is basically the group of people who are responsible in the purchasing organization to procure the material. An example is basically a particular finished goods, like a line of products which is only being procured by some material, some group. So that you can differentiate it by that one. But they all belong to one purchasing organization, which is like a group organization which has been defined. So these are the organization structure. We'll be talking about this more when we go in. But like this is what we'll be talking about when we go into the details of SAP MM. Okay, so this is what like it is, all purchasing of client, company code, plant, elevation area, storage location. Hello? I'm hearing something in the background. Can everybody be on mute, please?
Huh? Mute button. Huh?
Hello? Okay, so we were talking about what is company code. Company code is the smallest organization I was talking about, where you keep your bookkeeping and basically where you maintain your balance sheet. That's what I was talking about, that it is about the balance sheet, where you maintain your balance sheet. That means where you maintain your profit and loss statement. That is what the company code is. Okay, plant is the lowest valuation area where you evaluate the material. Basically, all the MRPs and everything are run at the materials plant level. Means that is what we were saying, generally used to describe a production site, a distribution center, or a centralized warehouse. Basically, you might see that this Stop and Shop or Walmart or Costco, these you can define as one plant. And those basically behind the storage, like if you see where the material, where you store the materials, those are called storage locations. And then we will talk about warehouse like later on, because warehouse is basically you can go up to the aisle level and determine like what material is located where. Okay, so a plant can be your physical or a logical unit. That means you can define some virtual plants also, even though it is not located. So that depends on the business requirements how we'll do it. That I will give you an example when we go into the real world. Valuation area is the area, like it is generally the plant, and basically what you do is basically where you evaluate the material. Where you evaluate the material, that means the value of the material is, that is where the valuation area is. Storage location is the location where you store the material. It's a subdivision of a plant. It can be again a physical or logical unit. So this is like where the materials are managed, like your raw materials, your maintenance and repair materials, or the finished product. Purchasing organization is the organization which is responsible for the procurement of material from the vendor. So this is how I was telling this purchasing organization, and then you have below is purchasing group. Like these are all the purchasing groups which are responsible. So a particular material group, like the material group of 0 and 3 is responsible. So this is one purchasing group. The people who are responsible for material group 1 and 4, this is one purchasing group. That is how you can differentiate. That is what this means. Okay. This is what the purchasing group are, the buyer group which are responsible for day-to-day buying activities. This is how the structure of purchasing will look like. Means if you see here, this is the client ABC it is talking about. Then they can have 2 company codes, or they can have multiple company codes. Then what is happening is this purchasing organization is responsible for procuring this company code, and these 2 purchasing organizations are responsible for procuring this company code. And then plant, like if you see here, these might be a distribution center. So like you have 2 plants which are responsible for, these purchasing organization is responsible for procuring this plant. This purchasing organization is responsible for these 2 plants, and this purchasing organization is responsible for procuring this plant. And you have below a storage location. If you see this plant is one storage location is this one, and another storage location is this 002, and they can have a common storage location, which is this plant, and this plant can have a common storage location, which is 002. This is what it is explaining. And here this is storage location. Then what we will talk about is in that once we are done with the materials management, then we will talk about is the warehouse management. What is warehouse management? Warehouse management is like if you have to manage your inventory up to the aisle level. So if you see like in, if you go to Walmart or if you go to Stop and Shop, they have aisles there. So aisles is nothing but a storage site. Okay, and you might have seen like when you are taking materials from there, there are some barcodes there. And what are those barcodes? The barcodes are nothing but they are there. So if you want to track down your material to which aisle the material is and which bin it is located, then you have to go for the warehouse management. Otherwise, like if you have to just go at the storage location level, that means that a big hall is there, a big hall is means there you don't want to maintain aisles and you don't want to maintain where the phone is located. Then you go for the storage location. But if you have to maintain, if I'm hearing a lot of walking sound and all, please somebody can go on mute. I can hear a lot of music in the background.
मुझे बंद करना जरा. Hello.
Hello. You guys go on mute because it is very disturbing. I can hear a lot of sound in the background. Some music is coming in. Sometimes like some other person is talking. So I request everybody to be on mute, please, because I get disturbed and then like means I cannot talk. So I request everyone to please go on mute. I don't know, I'm hearing one lady talking on the phone. I don't know, someone is talking on the phone and it's too much disturbing. Can everybody hear that?
Yes, I can hear that.
Yeah. So is it Yogita, like someone is talking in the background? I don't know who is that person. Yogita, I think you are talking, so can you please be mute?
अगं मी तुला सांगते स्पीकरवर ठेव म्हणून.
I don't know how to control.
तर मग या कम्प्युटरवर ऐक मग शांतपणे.
Hello, Yogita, can you be on mute, please?
मग बंद करायला कम्प्युटरवर ऐकत बस मग.
Hello. Hello. Yogita.
You should have gone to that room and done it. मी तुला त्या रूम मध्ये ओपन. तुला करायचंच नाहीये, दॅट्स द बेसिक थिंग. मी तुला ऑन करून देतो, 5 मिनिटं केलेलं आहे.
माझ्यामध्ये त्यांना काय ना बाकी कोणी करत नाही. एक अमेरिकन बाई आहे आणि त्यांचा मानसीच्या असा एवढा मुलगा आहे तर त्यांना एकदम.
Hello, Yogita, can you be on mute because it is very disturbing?
इंट्रोडक्शन तरी दिलं का?
Hello. Thank
He's
you.
muted now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yogita. It was like difficult, like other people also will not be able to hear what I'm saying. Sorry to say that, because then what happens is everybody gets disturbed. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we were talking about warehouse number. So like we have storage type 001 and 002, and then we have bin here. Basically, like if you have to go to the aisle level, then you go for the warehouse management. Otherwise, like you can be till the storage location level. So we will talk about warehouse management later, but now you can just go up to the storage location level. That means the storage location level is the level where like you are storing the material and you are, it's just a big hall. That is what you can understand, where you are storing your material. stuck now. Okay. So basic data. So what I was talking about is this is your means what all things what we have is we have like two kind of master data in there. One is your material master records. So and your master records to understand that, and then you have is material master record and the vendor master record. So we'll talk about like what is material master, what is vendor master, and the relation between two is between means how do you maintain the price in there. That is another thing what we'll be talking about is the purchasing info record. So master data like means to start with like means after organization structure, the first thing what you have to maintain is the master data. What are master data? We'll be talking in the material master. From the purchasing side, there are three kinds of master data. One is material master, one is vendor master, and the other one like where you maintain the price of material and vendor is called the purchasing info record. Purchasing info record is the combination of material and vendors, and you can maintain different price on that. So these vendors is you are maintaining the properties of the vendor in the vendor master data. It's a one-time setting which the business does it like, so what we do is when we load like initial data, we have to load all the vendors because in a company there might be like 1,000 vendors. There might, in the materials, you might have 10,000 materials sitting there. So how do you load all those materials? Like there are ways to load that material. When we go in detail, I'll talk about like how we can load that. Material master is the place where you maintain the properties of the material, like what will be the basic weight of the material, what is the sales organization which will be the sales organization for the material, how you will issue the material, what will be the basic price of the material, what is the valuation class for the material, how you will do materials requirement planning, how you will do the purchasing for the material, all those standard things like what is the when you create a purchase orders, like what will be the purchase order price for that one, what will be the purchase order unit, in what unit you will procure. Those all are maintained in the material master. In the vendor master, basically you maintain the vendor address, like what is the vendor address, how you will pay to the vendor. Vendor account is maintained in there, the vendor bank account is maintained in there. So vendor is the combination of purchasing and material master, basically and the procurement. Because in the vendors, you say what kind of materials, what kind of vendor will be sending you the material, what will be his address, what will be his bank account, how you will pay, how will the vendor give you discount. Vendor means like if you pay him in net 14 days, what will be the discount he'll be giving you. If you are paying in cash, like what discount he'll be giving you. If you are paying in net 30 days, what discount he'll give or he'll not give you any discount, that kind of thing. Bill of material is more related to procurement side only. From the purchasing side is when we procure the subcontracting stock. We'll talk about like how the subcontracting stock is done and then how the withdrawal of materials are done. That we'll talk about later. So structure of vendor master, if you see here, the structure of vendor master is basically is where you maintain the name, address and control data. In the purchasing view, you maintain what the terms and conditions are. Basically, how will you pay to the vendor. The partner function. The partner function you maintain is basically you say whether this material, this vendor will be, this vendor is your good receipt, or you will only send the purchase order, or he'll be just sending you the invoice. So the partner function is the function which decide whether this vendor will be a good receipt. He'll be just sending you the material, but the invoice will be done by a different person. And if like, or it can be like a material, it's like this material, he will only take the purchase orders and the supplier will be different. The invoicing will be different. So that partner function you maintain in that. Currency is basically which kind of business transactions you will do in which currency, whether it is US dollars, whether it is European euros, or you do it in Japanese yen, what kind of that you do it, that is what you maintain in vendor master. Then in the accounting data, basically this is the responsibility of the finance people. What they give is, they say is what is the bank account number, how the accounts will be maintained, and payment, basically payment terms and all that kind of stuff. Then you have request for quotations, like how do you do the request for quotation. That the utilization is basically vendor, from this vendor master when you do the request for quotations and quotation processing and the purchase order handling. These all data are taken from the vendor master. So these are the transactional data which take the data from the master data. Then when you do the invoice entry, when you do the invoice verification and payment handling, that is the time like that the data is taken from the accounting data. That is how an area of validity is like for each purchasing organization, and this is for the company code level. That is what it is all. How do you create a vendor? That is what like you do it. This is this is SAP screen, how you maintain the address. If you see here this create vendor, this is how it looks like, order of currency. This will be your order of currency, terms of payment, Incoterms, and salesperson who is responsible. This is material master record. Then another data like which is material master. How do you maintain the material master? This is how you maintain the material master. These are all the views like what the material, like how will be the purchasing view. This is how you create your material, your basic unit of material. This is material group. What will be the gross weight and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So now we'll talk about is the business process transaction. Like we have talked about the master data. Then what we will talking about the business process transactions are like these are the organizational data. Then you have rules. Then you have master data. So it means we'll be talking about more about MM. Okay. So rules define the parameters for the master data and transactions. Rule determines functionality for master data. Rules are relatively fixed. So if you see here for materials management, these are the rules like fiscal periods. Like fiscal period is nothing but the year which you are doing the business transaction, like 2015 or something. Account groups are basically it defines what kind of the vendor it is, basically whether he is like a one-time vendor or he's like a good supplier or he is the recipient of the purchase order or whether he is your invoice person, like who will be invoicing you. Material types define whether like this is your raw material, or we'll talk about like what is raw material, what is finished product, what is your trading material. These we'll talk about in later. And then we have planned parameters. There we have purchasing tolerance, automatic account assignment, like how the GL account is determined when you do the good receipt. These are all about this one. The reservations, how the system creates the reservation. That means when you are procuring the purchase order, so system will create a reservation in the background saying that this material has to be procured. Material group is nothing but material group is a group of materials which has the same properties. There you group them into one. Loading group is used for the sales people. Basically it determines how to determine the shipping point. That is what it is about. Transaction data are application data. So transaction data is like creating a purchase order. So doing a good receipt. Those are like the transactional data, which are like which you will be doing like means after the business means all your master data are created, like your material masters, your vendor masters, your purchasing info record is created. Then the transactional data are like when you create the purchase orders, when you create the purchase requisition, how do you do the good receipt. So all they take the data is basically they take the data from SAP. So purchasing process, like you have MM module, you have FI module. The master data for purchasing is like for in the MM and this one. So this is what we will be talking about, the procurement process. This is what the whole cycle of SAP of procurement is. This is what we'll be covering in our whole topic, like when we do SAP training. So it starts with purchase requisition. Okay, this is a transactional data. Purchase requisition is nothing but it is like when in department there is a requirement. What they do is like suppose if you require a chair or something, like suppose they require a table, they require computers, any department can require anything. So what they do is the process starts with creation of a purchase requisition. Then what happens is the purchase order is created. From the purchase requisition, what will happen is there you don't assign any vendors. They don't, because the different department, they don't know from which vendor it has to be created. So what the purchasing department they do is they create a purchasing order. They create a purchase order. Once the purchase order is created, now the vendor is assigned to this. This is the creating of a purchase order is a responsibility of a purchasing organization. So the people who are responsible for creating a purchase order is the purchasing organization people. Not any other department can create a purchase order. Once the purchase order is created, you notify the vendor. Vendor ships the material. The material is received here. So this is what we will be talking about inventory management, what the inventory management is. We'll be talking about good receipt, how the good receipt is done when the vendor sends you the material. Then it's like, this is like, if you see here, this is called three-way match. Then you have invoice receipt. And then finally, when the vendor sends you, you receive the invoice, you do the verification, and then finally you pay to the vendor. The payment to the vendor and the invoice like is handled by the finance people. But if you see here, this is called three-way match. That means if your purchase order, say you received 100 quantity, the vendor, like this is when the vendor sends you the material, yes, send you 50 quantities, and the invoice is say for 60 quantities. So this is not matching. That is what is called three-way match. So the three-way match is basically is like you are matching all the three things. What is here? What was the purchase order? What was the good received done? And what was the invoice received done? So based on that, basically, this is what the three-way match we'll be talking about when we do it. But this is what the whole cycle we'll be talking about in the training. That is what is called Procure-to-Pay. So we'll be talking about purchase requisition. We'll talk about purchase orders. We'll talk about how to notify the vendors, how the vendor's shipment is done, how the good receipt is done when the vendor sends you the material, and how the invoice receipt is done, like, and then finally how the three-way match is done between a purchase order, good receipt, and invoice receipt. And once this is done, then the payment to vendor is done. This is what this whole materials management is all about. Okay, this is how you create the purchase order, create and save the purchase order. It's a standard SAP screen. We'll be talking about this a lot when we do this. This is like how the line items are there. This is the header place. This is the line item. All your purchasing organization, you see that this is the company code. This is the purchasing organization. This is the vendor. And these are the line items you can talk about. Then we'll have item categories. He's talking about the consignment, the subcontract. We'll talk about that later when we talk in detail. So this is the purchase order structure, how it looks like. In the header, we have the vendor number. We have the purchasing organization, the group, the company code, date, and the purchase order price. In the item overview, like we have the materials, the quantity, the delivery date, price, currency, plant. And the line item is like where you will have the purchase order history, like how many good receipts have been done, how much invoice has been done, and line-wise price, like every material price will be there in there. It will also have a delivery schedule, like when the vendor will deliver the material. It will have tolerances like under delivery and over delivery tolerances, and how it will be stored. That is what this detail is there in the purchase order. This is what purchase header structure is: vendor, purchasing organization, conditions, partner, payment process. This is what it will have. Line items, I talked about item category, material, like material number, your delivery date when he'll be delivering, the net price, what will be the price, currency, plant, and your storage location. Okay, output. That means once you have now created a purchase order, we'll be talking about how you will be sending the purchase order to the vendor. That is, you can send it as a print like output. That means you can print it at the printer and then mail him, or you can email him that one, or we have electronic data interchange, that is like through an electronic document. We can directly send the purchase order to vendor. We can fax that to the vendor. We can do is like through XML we can send to the vendor. There are different ways of that. We'll be talking about how we can do it. Then is the search for purchase orders, like you can search for the purchase orders, like if you have created purchase orders. So we'll be talking about when we do the training, like what all different kind of reports are there in the purchase order, where you can, once the purchase order is created, how the purchase orders you can search it. This is what it is there. And this is like means this is again the same thing. Like if you are seeing the purchase order is created, now you have notified to the vendor. Vendor is now sending you the material. This is the shipment. The truck is coming in, and then finally you receive it. This is what the good receipt is basically. Unless and until your purchase order, the shipment is coming, you will do the good receipt here. Okay. Good receipt is like basically based on the movement types in SAP. So we have stock transport, we have in the good receipt, and in basically materials inventory management. We'll talk about how to do the good receipt, how the good issues will be done, how the stock transfers will be done. So movement types, like in SAP, everything is controlled by a movement types in good receipt or in the inventory management, which is like the quantity fields are updated with the movement types, your stocks types are updated, and the general ledger accounts are updated. Basically, this is what happens when you do the good receipt is the quantities are updated, the stock is updated, and the GL accounts and the consumption accounts are updated. Okay, these are all the standard movement types which we'll be using when we do the materials management. You don't have to remember now, but when we do that, these are all the things which we'll be talking about, like what all movement types are there. Means movement type differentiate the material the way it is done in the inventory management. 101 is for the good received. 122 is when you send return delivery to the vendor. 501 is basically when you receive against a purchase order, without a purchase order in the unrestricted stock. So there are different movement types. We'll be talking about that when we do the good receipt. So good receipt is a good movement activity which we accept the goods into a system. Good receipt is nothing but when we receive the good, like basically you have created a purchase order. Now that purchase order, you are sending it to you have notified to the vendor that the material now sends to be. It is now you have to send this material to us. Once the vendor sends the material to you, your responsibility is to receive the material as a client. So that is what is good receipt is. So what happens when you do the good receipt is saying like means it updates the purchase order, it updates the inventory GL account automatically, and this is update purchase order history and update the physical inventory. That is what it does when you do the good receipt. Okay. You can do good receipt. There are different ways where you can receive the goods. Good receipt, you can receive it in the warehouse. Good receipt into consumption. That means when you are receiving the material, there are purchase orders which are consumable material purchase orders. So when you receive the material, you will not see the stock getting increased. But what will happen is they are directly consumed for a particular cost center or something. We'll talk about that like when we do this. Means we'll talk in detail, but this is what basically this one there. You can receive the material in the block stock. What is block stock? Block stock is basically if you have received the material and then you want to do some repair of the material, or you want to block the material for a sales order for a particular customer. That is what you can block that material for a particular customer. This is what is good receipt into the block stock. Okay. Good receipt effect. When the good receipt is done, what is the effect in the system happens is basically you will have a purchase order history. The purchase order is updated with the purchase order history. The material in the material master, the stock and value is updated, and then the notification of good receipt issued. This is optional, and transfer request to the warehouse means if the warehouse is there and if you have assign a storage location to the warehouse, a TR transfer request is created. That is what all these things happens when you do the good receipt. Okay. And then the materials and financial documents are created. Stock and consumption accounts are updated, and the inspection means when you receive it, and if you are receiving it in quality inspection stock, then the notification goes to the quality people that now the material is received in quality, you guys can do and the quality inspection. Okay. This is good receipt account posting. That means the accounts are posted. Inventory account is debited at the standard price, and good receipt, like basically what happens is your GRIR account is credited, and your clearing account, like if any profit or loss statement is there, or if any price difference is account between a purchase order and a material master price, that is what it goes into the price difference account. This is what is account posting is done. So this is like purchase requisition. When we create the purchase requisition, there is no financial accounting, no impact of financial accounting is there. When you create the purchase order, there is no impact on the financial accounting. But when you do the good receipt, that is where we have an integration with the finance, and that is where the automatic accounts are posted. That we'll be talking about when we do like in the material master. You will understand more. Means from the financial side, that is where the integration between inventory management and financial accounting is there. So we'll talk about that, but it is not very complex. Once we understand, it is not that complex. So this is what we were talking about is invoice receipt process. Engage in a three-way match. This is what we were talking about, like enter the purchase order, open dollar amount, quantity, price, enter the invoice number and the dollar amount to be paid, simulate invoice processing, and post the invoice in SAP. So when you receive, like what happens is you have to enter the purchase order number and then quantity, because purchase order might be 100, but when you are invoicing, when the vendor is invoicing only for 50 quantity, so you have to enter the price quantity what is there. what is the receiving date when the vendor received it, and the invoice number, basically the invoice number and the dollar amount to be paid. That's what you say, and that is how it is done. So this is again as an example of a three-way match. Basically, a purchase order is created. You have done the good receipt, and the invoice receipt is basically vendor is sending you the invoice, and here is where you are doing the verification. Like the purchase order, again I'm giving an example, is a purchase order of 100 quantity, good receipt of 50 quantity, invoice receipt of say 60 quantity. So we are doing the verification is basically how much the good receipt was done. Is the vendor giving you more invoice quantity than what the good receipt was done? If everything is okay, then we pay to the vendor. Then the payment program runs and the payment is done to the vendor. So this is your three-way processing I was talking about, like purchase order, target quantity, target price. It will also check the target price. That means your price in the purchase order is say $10 and invoice vendor is invoicing you for $12. What will happen is basically it will check the price in the purchase order, and if the price what he's invoicing is more than what it is there in the purchase order, the invoice will be blocked. That is what the three-way match is. That is what the purchase order and good receipt, and therefore that is price difference. A quantity difference can be there, or like there are like different kind of variances are there. That will be doing. This will be doing like when we do the invoice verification. Then that is what I was talking about. It matches the price and quantity. It updates the purchase order and history. That means when you are done with the invoice verification, it will update the purchase order that the invoice has been done. And then it updates the accounting information. This is what it happens, financial effects of invoice posting. So like when you're done with the invoice, when you receive the invoice in the system, what happens? Basically, when invoice is posted, SAP shifts the liability from the good receipt, that is the GRIR account, that is good receipt / invoice received accounts are debited, and the vendor account is credited. That is what it happens. We'll talk about this, what is debit and credit, when we do the invoicing and the good receipt. And it updates the purchase order, it updates the material master, it creates an accounting document, and initiates the payment process within the financial accounting. That is where it ends. Like our process ends once we do the good invoice verification. Beyond that is the job of the financial people. Okay. Invoice receipt is basically now once you have received the invoice, now your company is liable to pay to the vendor, and vendor like then becomes credited. That is what it means here. Okay. Once invoice is done, then you select invoices for payment based on the payment terms in the vendor master. So financial people, this is not our responsibility, but that are included in the slide. Basically, once your invoice verification is done, then the finance people, what they do is they check the payment term. Based on that, then they pay to the vendor, and then generate payments that it generates the payment for release invoice and update accounting information. So account payable settlement price is basically which opens item to be paid. Then you have to make payment to, means how do you want to make the payment? Account payable settlement process is basically it decides whether you want to make payment to the bank or you have to give a check to the vendor. Those all things are done by the financial process, and they decide like what they have to do, what kind of payment medium it will be, whether it will be credit card or it will be bank through that or the check, what they have to do, and who will get paid. That is the partner function decide like who will get paid, whether it's the invoicing person or it will be the purchase order, like who received the purchase order. Based on that, that is done by the financial people. So payment process again creates a financial document for the record of the transaction. That is what it is saying. Payment to the vendor. Payment to the vendor can be done automatically or manually. That is what I was taking, like means on automatically through post, or there are some programs like through which you can pay, or elements of payment transaction is bank you can pay, or you can pay through a check, or like you can pay, calculate payment amount, print payment medium, and you can pay through a check. That's what it means. Amount owed is paid to the vendor account. Like bank is then once we pay to the bank, then bank is responsible for paying to the vendor. That is what payment to the bank is. This is an organizational element. That is what I showed you before also, like this, how it is connected, your purchasing organization to plant and all, which we have already discussed. This is check PO history, like means how do you know like the PO history is done. So if you want like this, click this line item and you see this is what the good received is there, and this is how you can see like, okay, now this was good received and this is invoice received. So you have received the quantity of 1,000 and this is what you have received as basically this purchase order history is updated. This is what it is saying. This is inventory like MRP, how you check the inventory, and this is the initial screen of SAP, how it looks like. So this is like, before going to that, is there any questions? If there are no questions, this is like what I started in the beginning. We, in the materials management, we'll be talking about materials master, the purchasing, the requirement planning, inventory management, and invoice verification. This is, and we'll do the interface with PP, we'll do the interface with SD, we'll do the interface with QM, we'll do the interface with plan maintenance, we'll do the interface with financial accounting and costing, and this one, like there will be some interface which you would understand when you see that. You don't have to do the system updates in the background, but you have to understand how it works. That is what my job will be to explain you. With this, like this topic is, this is what like the overview of what we'll be talking when we'll be doing the training. This is just an overview. This is like very 30,000 feet like we are talking about now. When we go into the, when we do the training, we'll be going into more details of what is this all about. Any questions?
So when exactly is the classes starting?
We'll start most probably next week, 7th of March. It will be Saturday. And it will go on for 5 weeks, Saturday and Sunday. And I plan to do that in addition. I think there is an office there and I plan to do it there. My job will be basically is to train you guys and then prepare you for the interviews. Once you're ready for the interviews, then you can take the interviews with the client, and then the training and the marketing people will come and then start marketing for you.
Okay.
And my job is to show you, like, give you real examples and how the training will be done. We have a standard SAP training material, and that's SAP training like academy, like what they do this in SAP Academy. That is what I'll be taking, and means what I'll be doing is basically the class will start somewhere around 8:30 in the morning or 9 o'clock. We can decide like what is good for you guys, and it will go up to 12 o'clock. So we'll go like from 9 to 1 max. And what I'll do is 2 hours I'll do that, and I'll help you guys in 1 or 2 hours I'll sit there so you guys can practice, and if anything is there, you guys stuck somewhere, I can help you there. And then I'll give you some homework where you'll be basically I'll ask you like these things, you have to do it, so you guys have to practice in the system. And the system access will be given to you by the company. They'll give you access so you can go anywhere and log on, like you can go home and log on into SAP system, and there you can practice wherever you want. And I'm there to help you, like when you're on a project also, like if you're stuck somewhere, I would definitely help you there in case of like if you're stuck somewhere or other thing. Okay, so I want to understand your background and what kind of experience you have.
Yeah, actually, I have pharmacy background, and actually, I had worked with SAP.
So, how many years of experience you have?
Like in SAP, I have 2.5 years experience.
You already have SAP experience?
Yeah, but in the pharmaceutical and especially, actually, I was creating a material code for the finished good and extend to the finance level and then packaging
Okay,
level,
okay.
production.
Yeah, so that's good because I have been in pharma industry for last 8-9 years. So I have a good experience in that, and I can help you out there in understanding how that whole thing works. And I've been doing consulting, like I've been full time. I was with IPM as a senior managing consultant, with a senior manager. I worked there for 4 years, and mostly my expertise have been into a consulting. I do consulting, and I do consult for the clients, for different clients. And for last 7-8 years, I've been doing it for pharmaceutical industry. I worked for Merck, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Actavis, and all those kind of companies.
So I have a question. The MM, like the WM, is after the when the finished goods are done manufacturing, right?
So yeah, we have different kind of materials in SAP. One is raw material, and then you have finished product, and then you have like your trading materials. So based on the properties, the material masters, like what happens is the material master is created. They will have different views. By definition, raw material is basically you can procure from outside, or you can do is you can produce inside. But like you means based on you cannot sell it. Finished product by definition is basically you can sell it outside, but you cannot procure from outside. Okay, so that means material master purchasing view will not come in that when you are creating a finished product, because you are not, by definition, purchasing is not like you cannot produce you cannot procure the material from outside if it's a finished product. In case of trading material, is basically is like if you see all the Walmart and retail stores and all your Stop and Shop or Target, they are all retail industry. What they do is they don't procure any material. For them, everything is a trading material, which is a Hawa material. So what they do is they buy from outside and they sell it. They don't produce anything. So they have their own vendors. So we configure those materials as a trading material, which is a Hawa material. So what they basically is you will have the procurement view, you will have the sales view, but you will not have the production view. That is how you control in SAP, whether it is a trading material or it is a production material, that is your raw material, or it is a finished product. Okay. Yeah, I don't see Yogita now. Any questions? Any more questions?
No.
So how much do we need to pay before we can start?
That I don't know. Probably you will have to talk to Madhu. Because she is the one who talks about all the monetary things. So if there are no questions, I will end this meeting. Just I wanted to talk about, like, today was like totally 30,000 feet we were talking about. Once we start the training, he will go more into detail of every chapter, and you will understand it much better. But these are the things which we will be talking about when we talk about materials management. Mostly master data, your purchase orders, your good receipt, and invoice verification. But we'll be going more into detail then. Okay, so we'll end this call, and you can talk to Madhu. She's the one like who is the coordinator, and okay then. Thank you, everyone. Hello.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
you.
Okay, I'll see you.
See you on next Saturday then.
Yeah. All right.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sanjay, for the good
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
Thanks. Yogita, you were there? Hello.